Kia ora, nau mai haere mai ki tēnei toiposo wānanga. Hello, welcome to the first toiposo wānanga for this year. And in this session today, we are covering dietary trends. We have Jessica Meads with us today, our in-house dietitian, who's going to go through the processes. I suppose the main thing is that I hope you have a chance to critically think and reflect on some of these in your own mahi. And that if you have any questions later on, we'll have an opportunity for a discussion, and you can always send through your questions through my email address, which is hariase@toitangata.co.nz, or there are other platforms through the website. Okay, without further ado, let's get into it. Well, kia ora koutou, ko Jessica Meads koinga. Today, we're covering emerging dietary trends. So I guess just to start off with, what are some of these? Well, what is an emerging dietary trend, and what are we going to cover today? So you'll see on your screen lots of these different crazy words: eat more, weigh less, lemon detox, clean eating, vegetarianism, the cabbage only diet, soup diet. So as you can see, there's quite an array of different patterns of eating and things that we have been told or seen or demonstrated ways to eat, different ways of dieting, and these are all part of what we call dietary trends or patterns of eating. We're faced with many of them today in society, and there's a lot of hype around them as well. So I guess today we're kind of trying to cut through some of that hype, get to some facts, and hopefully help you to make an informed decision about the way you would like to eat and continue in living a healthy lifestyle. So the next sort of step onto that is also around what you would promote to a whānau member, a community member, or anyone that approaches you maybe with questions about things that they've heard out there. So hopefully by the end we'll be able to give you some questions and some tools to be able to support their learning and journey as well. So some of the things that are quite common, or themes or signs of a dietary trend, is what does it promise? Does it promise fast results? Does it promise you this new incredible you? Does it use lots of jargon? Is it new? Is it groundbreaking? What foods or products does it promote? Are there things that you just have to have, or does it use things that we already know and eat on a day-to-day basis? Does it exclude anything, or encourage foods that you wouldn't normally eat in large amounts? Does it sound too good to be true? And what kind of solutions does it offer you? Are they long-term? Are they short-term? And really start to look behind who promoted it, who developed it, and if there's any scientific backing. Cool. So today we're going to cover just a few of them. As I said, there's many different diets or ways of eating. The first one we're going to look at is the Paleo Diet, also known as the caveman, hunter-gatherer, and sort of ancestral eating. So what is paleo? Really, it focuses on replicating the eating patterns of the Stone Age. So looking back to between 2.5 million years ago to 10,000 years ago. So a very, very long time ago, before the development of farming, of agriculture, and of our meat industry that we have as well. So the foods that were available at that time were really just anything in the environment. Lots of fish, insects, eggs, plant-based foods, and also our kaimahi, bone marrow, organ meat, those types of things. In modern society, these only make up about a quarter of our diet today in foods available. So we have come quite a long way, and some of the foods that are now available we wouldn't have had back then. They've been created or they're more available. So if you think about tomatoes, for example, they never used to be available in the wintertime. They were only a summer food, whereas now we can get these beautiful juicy red tomatoes all year round. So what that kind of could also lead to is the belief that the foods we have aren't necessarily as nutrient rich or dense because they've been modified or changed by humans. So yeah, with paleo, they really want to go back to these older foods, these foods that are around then that are more nutrient rich, and they think that this way of eating, will solve all our problems in terms of the diseases we see out there today. Yeah. So what is paleo? There's lots of different things that paleo brings. One of the biggest pushes that we've seen through social media and all around us is people are trying to determine like what is actually paleo and what's not. And currently there's no defined explanation. It differs depending on who you read or who you've watched. And so we see some of these things like this flowchart on the presentation at the moment. Does it have a face? Yes, then it's paleo. Was it a fruit or vegetable? If it's a grain, then it's out. These things that they start to create a way of categorizing things into a good food or a bad food. And this is quite a common trait of many dietary trends and many ways of eating. Another thing that paleo does is it does start to exclude some foods. So grains are definitely one, anything in terms of dairy, sugar, and some of our cultivated kai as well, like potatoes. So signs that it might be an emerging dietary trend is that it restricts or eliminates a food and it starts to categorize them into these good or bad categories. So one good thing though about paleo is if we look at it from more of the aspect that it's ancestral eating, looking at tupuna, they do really encourage foods from tangata, from humie, from tāne, from rongo, looking back to our whole foods rather than a lot of the processed kai that we have available to us today. So all of this is really exciting, and for Māori, I guess, as well, we can trace our whakapapa back and our food back through that to not so long ago. We only have to look back maybe 150 years versus some of the other ethnicities that have to look back maybe 10,000 to a couple of millions of years. So yeah, that is definitely exciting. And we do still have some of our kai available to us as well, which is encouraging. And also we still have ways in learning around how to process that, how to make it palatable, and how to incorporate it in modern day context. Cool. So now that you've had a little bit of background to paleo, we need to kind of think about, is it paleo yay or paleo nay? And in your job as a kaimahi, this is whatever the diet is that you're faced with whānau, you need to think about, pros and cons and whether this is going to be something you stand beside or not, and what parts of it you can weave that you like and what parts that you might encourage whānau to do something slightly different. So these are just my thoughts, but you're definitely welcome to add to them. So some of the things that I don't really agree with around paleo is the cost. Like the foods that they encourage, including the meat and the nuts, they can get quite expensive and can be a little bit financially restricting for a whānau. It does reduce some of the foods that we eat. Dairy is a really high source of calcium, and without that, it might be a little bit harder for you to meet your nutritional requirements. However, there are a lot of foods out there as well that have been fortified with calcium to sort of offset this. Another thing is, there can be some interactions with medication, so it's really important to check with your GP about the suitability of taking on this diet. I know one thing that has risen in the past for people is if they're on warfarin, that's something they'll need to check in, is with a high intake of oily fish, so salmon and these types of kaimoana, there can be an interaction with warfarin, and that interferes on the way that a person's blood clots. And likewise, if you're cutting out a whole heap of foods such as bread or a lot of our carbohydrate-based foods that come from grains, and you might have diabetes or something like that. It might cause an insulin drop. So just something to be aware of. Always check with your GP just to make sure that it's all going to be okay. There is also going to be an increase in saturated fat. So saturated fat is being linked to heart disease, and by increasing our meats and our fats, then we can perhaps have long-term consequences of heart issues. And it does also encourage some uses of supplements and tablets. So again, just checking with any interactions that might cause. And you don't want to necessarily rely on supplements or tablets to get you through. Ideally, we would be getting all the nutrients we need from our foods and from our diet. On the flip side of that, paleo has also created a whole lot of new exciting things, including ways of preparing kai. So you'll see vegetables be used instead of some of our wheat-based foods. So, I've seen cauliflower pizza bases made instead of having your standard wheat-based one. It also does encourage other aspects of a healthier lifestyle. So less sugar, less salt, alcohol and coffee are also discouraged, and it does promote a lot of exercise, which is exciting. It's also been obviously quite heavily promoted through the CrossFit phenomenon, which is exciting as well, and a lot of our whānau have taken up that challenge too. It also encourages a lot of fruit and veg, so anything that does that is always exciting for me. That old saying of 5+ a day kind of gets blown out the window with paleo, because they do need to make up the majority of their energy intake from fruit and veggies, because they've cut out some other foods. And also for Māori, there's a connection to our kai. People might start to be able to incorporate more of our traditional foods and look to sources of kaimahi and these different foods to start introducing them back in. And there certainly will be health benefits if you've cut out food groups and you start to lose weight and you start to build in some more exercise. There could be some really positive things happen there, and there's been many stories of that. So like any of these diets we're going to cover, there's always good and bad, and it's just really about taking parts of these trends and weaving in the ones that you think are really good, and some of the other things you might need to be a bit more wary about. Cool, so that's paleo. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask or send us through. I'm happy to follow up, but really do just reflect on whether it's going to be something that is realistic for you and realistic for your family, or the family that you're working with as a kaimahi. All right, Optifast. So Optifast, as it says there, serious solution for weight loss. This is a pretty intense trend or diet, I suppose, to follow. It's a meal replacement program, so that basically means all the nutrients you get in your day all have to come from these shakes and potions and soups and bars, and it's very restricted on the calories. So how the very low calories diets work is that by limiting the calories, limiting your carbohydrate intake, it tends to push the body into using fat as a source of fuel rather than carbohydrate, and that process there is called ketosis. When the ketones are released, it creates a feeling of fullness, of a very low appetite, and that also helps obviously reduce the amount people eat and helps them stick to it without needing to eat extra or feel really hungry and struggle. So yeah, all their nutritional needs need to be met within the 800 calorie limit. In this diet, it does take a lot of dedication to follow because of its restrictiveness. However, it has shown really great results for a short term, and it has also been put together through quite a lot of consultation with different health professionals, including dietitians, GPs, and many others. So overall, it's a 26-week program, and it has 4 different phases. The first phase is about 600 to 800 calories per day, and this is made up of 3 Optifast products. So they usually have soups, shakes, and I think bars is the third thing that they have. You also need 2 cups of low starchy vegetables. So that's things like, green veg and carrots, and nothing like a potato or kumara. You also need a teaspoon of oil and 2 liters of water a day. So that in that really intensive phase, it's also encouraged that exercise perhaps doesn't happen quite so much, because if you've gone from having a normal diet or your normal diet to going to this really low amount of calories, you're obviously going to be lacking in energy, and there could be a little bit of risk there. However, phase 2 starts to loosen up a little bit. You drop down to 2 Optifast products a day, 1 meal, and also 2 cups of low starchy veg again, and the water. So it slowly does increase. By phase number 3, you've got 2 meals in there plus 2 fruit and 1 dairy. So it's starting to look a little bit more balanced. And then finally, by the 4th phase, we have 3 meals, 2 fruit, 1 dairy, and the veg and the water as well. And at that point, you don't have any of the products, and you're starting to get back to a normal calorie range. So with Optifast, we do need to be monitored on this. It's really important to perhaps get some blood tests taken as you do it, make sure there's nothing going on. And it needs to be done in conjunction with other lifestyle factors. So as I said, in the first phase of it, exercise might be limited because of the severe calorie restriction. However, by phase 4, you can see we're back to a relatively normal eating pattern, and exercise would pick up to maintain that weight loss. So how useful is it, and is it sustainable, and is it safe? So there's a few different things. Short-term, Optifast is really effective with weight loss. You can lose 1 kg to maybe a little bit more, maybe 2.5 per week. And the thing with Optifast is that it was designed for rapid weight loss, and it was designed around getting people ready for surgery. So bariatric surgery is one example of where Optifast is used. They might put you on it for, say, a month or even up to 6 weeks, and that helps reduce the risks and complications when you go through surgery. So it reduces the size of the liver. So if you're having keyhole surgery, they can get in there, they can navigate their way around your organs without too much disruption, and they know that Optifast works. Also with bariatric surgery, I suppose they do want to see you make lifestyle changes, and they want it to be for the long term. So if they can see that you can stick to this Optifast diet, they'll see that you will be successful long term as well. So weight loss benefits, that have been shown include improved insulin sensitivity, glycemic control for type 2 diabetes, improving your blood pressure, your lipid profiles, and it can also help with sleep apnea too once some of that weight starts to drop off. It is really restrictive though, this diet, and it's not like you can really go out for dinner or be included in some of our social norms, and it can be quite hard to stick to, and also quite bland and boring. However, if you go through the four phases, you do get to transition back to normal food, perhaps just not as much as what you're eating originally. On average, it costs between $70 to $100 for the first 12 weeks. So it is a bit pricey, but when you are cutting out most of your shopping bill, then it should balance out. And I guess you've got to look at the long-term advantages of it. So there's a few red flags around Optifast, or actually any of our very low calorie diets. It's not really suitable for anyone with a BMI of less than 25, anyone under 18, breastfeeding, pregnancy as well. If you're hapu and breastfeeding, then you have higher calorie needs than a normal person, because everything you're having, you're giving to pepe, and you need to support their development. Because we're not having as many calories, we won't have optimal nutrients to repair our cells and to give. So just something to be aware of there. Also, if you have past history of heart disease, liver function or kidney disease, it's not really recommended either, because it does put a bit of strain on our liver, and there's likewise with drug or alcohol abuse. So it really does pay to get the tick of approval from your GP. And once you have that, then it is available at the pharmacy and it is available online. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, so you'll see on your screen 4 lovely wahine, and you're probably wondering, well, what do these ladies all have in common? Why does she have them here? Well, in fact, they all endorse a different type of diet. They are all gluten-free, and they've done this because they think it reduces their body weight, helps them have less bloating, cramping, all sorts of different reasons, gives them more energy. So gluten-free is our next diet to cover. So what is gluten? Gluten is a protein found in wheat products, found in rye, barley, and oats. It's a protein that kind of gives elasticity, I suppose. You know, when you're making bread and you're kneading it, and you'll see it kind of has this elastic sort of texture and binding. So that's the gluten that's doing that job. And so when we take that out, obviously the texture and things of the bread or the dough are going to be a little bit different. So what is it found in? It's found in many of our processed foods, breads, cereals, cakes, biscuits, you name it. Like, it's in pretty much all of our food, even including beer, soy sauce, a whole raft of things. Yeah, so gluten-free has grown in popularity over the last few years. I think if you go onto Google and do a search, you'll see that it comes up with like 90 million different pages and views of that as well. Yeah, so the difference between being gluten-free and actually being celiac. Celiac disease, there is a direct link to gluten intolerance, and to the point where their safety is kind of really paramount. They need to be completely gluten-free, as there's long-term consequences of having gluten. So they've got high risks of getting cancer in their bowel and lots of different things. It's not very pleasant for them. Yeah, whereas being gluten-free, that can just be a choice. It can be a feeling that you might have, and there's also a range of different gluten intolerances. But for the purpose of this, we're looking at just cutting out gluten from a normal, healthy person's diet. Yeah. Okay, so some of the things to consider is that, you know, a gluten-free diet promotes less processed foods, which is quite good. You know, we're cutting out lots of not necessarily nutritional foods. You know, bread, cereals, some of those have relatively good things in them. However, some of the other products that we find gluten in aren't necessarily that great for us. It also encourages a lot more fruit and veggies, dairies and seeds and lean meats to be consumed, because we need to meet our needs if we're going to take something else out of our diet. And weight loss might occur if you've had this dramatic reduction in calories. It might also help increase your awareness of what's in your food and start to look at labels and interpret what foods you're consuming. On the flip side of that, you know, gluten-free products tend to have extra things added to them to make up for a lack of flavour or for textural changes. So as I said before, gluten adds that elasticity, kind of helps things bind together. In our bread, and for example, it makes sure it's nice and soft. And when we take that out, things change. It can become dry. It doesn't really stick together very nicely. It's really crumbly. So they have to add extra stuff to get that same texture. They'll add fat, they'll add sugar, they'll add salt, they'll add different things. So that's just something to be aware of. It doesn't necessarily mean that the product is healthier if it is gluten-free. Also, the cost On average, gluten-free products are 60% more expensive in the New Zealand market than they are or with their normal counterparts. So, a loaf of bread will kind of cost between $5 to $7 depending on what brand you're buying. That's just one example, but there is more and more gluten-free products coming out on the market, so that might help bring the cost down. Also thinking about, what are you going to replace these foods with? If you're cutting out bread, cereals, grains, and lots of different snacks and items that contain gluten, what are you going to replace those with? It's very well to cut out, say, pasta, but then are you going to replace that with just fries? Or what are the changes that you're going to make? Also looking at the long-term suitability and the benefits from that. So the weight loss that you might have received because you had less calories in your diet might not necessarily be sustained if you then replace them with higher calorie foods with more sugar and salt and fat added into them. I don't know, just something to think about. So again, any questions about the gluten-free diet and the difference between that and celiac, please just let me know. Or if you have anyone that's following gluten-free, then maybe just talking to them about, the changes that they've noticed or experienced and what things they've started to substitute their foods for. Awesome. Okay, Isagenix. This next one is taking New Zealand by storm, and in fact, Māori are the most adaptive people around, and they've taken this one up really quickly. What is it? Again, it's a very low-calorie diet. It's weight loss and cleansing, and it is a lot of products. No, it does really promise rapid weight loss and increased energy and removing the toxins. So it uses a mixture of shake and cleanse days, and they have a initiation package, which is 30 days of cleansing to get things going. They also have different products like fat burners and ISA shakes, or ISA snacks, I suppose, as well, that you can purchase. So it is really supplement heavy and quite restrictive on what you can actually eat. It was also founded by a marketing company, so unlike Optifast, the other very low-calorie diet we just looked at, it hasn't gone through all the testing and research like the Optifast one did. Instead, they want to hook you into the products. They want to tap into that desperate need to lose weight, to look great, and to live a happy, wholesome life. And through doing that, they gain, they grow in popularity, they gain money from these products, these different types of things. So it claims to do things better. It claims to help your body do things better than it already does. So, for example, they were saying, we're going to detox your liver, we're going to cleanse this, we're going to cleanse that. Well, actually, that's the job of your liver. It does it every day already. So, anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. So I've got two clips here to show you, but I think for the purpose of this, I'll just attach the links for you to look at and watch in your own time. They are really interesting. One was from 7 Sharp, and one is also about a Māori personal trainer that has been using Isagenix for a few years and uses it with his clients. So I just want you to take the time to have a look at those clips. Maybe have a reflect on them, and just look at different ways that this product is being marketed and used, and the benefits people see, or the flip side of that as well. But we're not going to play this right now. All right, so things to think about with Isagenix. It can be a really good kickstart to weight loss and lifestyle change. With that 30 days, you lose quite a lot of weight in a very short amount of time because it's so restrictive and you are just relying on their shakes and their soup. So just to give you a quick rundown, actually, so they have a shake day and a cleansing day. on a shake day, they drink a couple of glasses of water. They then have an isoline or something other shake. They also have to drink a different, it's called a natural accelerator or a fat burner. It's got supplements alongside of that. Mid-morning they also have another shake. They'll have different things to flush them out, which is the detoxing sort of side of things. And the whole day basically is just shakes or tablets. The only snacks that they can have is like maybe a hard-boiled egg or some celery, 4 cashews or 6 almonds. So not a lot of actual food, a lot of reliance on the different shakes. On a cleansing day, again they have the natural accelerators. They have different shakes and different flushing capsules, but there's no food on those days. So the thing that mainly strikes me about this one is the cost. Is it going to be suitable for your whole family to do this? Because the cost is quite large. For the 30-day package, it's just under $600, and about so it's about $30 a day and per person. And then on top of that, you've also got top-up packages and maintenance packages, and I think they also have a performance pack too for the sporting people. With that performance pack, just to be aware, if you are an elite athlete or you are aiming to be one, this hasn't been cleared by the World Anti-Doping Agency, so if you did get drug tested, things would show up and you might be in a bit of strife. So there's also other concerns around suitability for the whole family. You'll see in one of those clips we looked at before that there's been a bit of strife over marketing to children, and yeah, again, I wouldn't recommend it for children because they're still growing and they need protein and they need a lot of calories to help build their muscles and make sure that their brain development is still occurring. And with not having as much as they normally would need, it could be a little bit risky. Also, similarly with pregnant and breastfeeding, wahine, you need to it's not really suitable for them either. Yeah, so again, if you were going to start this is something that interests you, please check with your GP. Make sure you check out those clashes with medications. Make sure you have, just if you get a handle on your blood glucose levels, what those normally are, and if there's any changes once you start the shakes or supplements. There's also this complexity around, is it the nutritionally complete aspect of it versus the toxicity level. So they do, in all their shakes and supplements, have quite a high amount of nutrients because they're removing all of your food from your diet, which you would normally get nutrients from. They put it all into the shakes and supplements. And the way your body sort of uses these nutrients or digests these can be different, whether it's from whole food or versus something that's been commercially made. So that's another thing just to kind of have in the back of your mind. Yeah, they might not necessarily be the most effective form to be absorbed in. Cool. Other things to think about is like, how do you prefer to eat? Do you prefer having set meals? Do you like having a plan? Some people really do enjoy the action of eating and chewing and enjoying that with their friends and their family. Others like a set plan, so this might be beneficial for them if they want to have something that's really prescriptive that they can just go hard for 30 days and do. So there's lots of things to think about, and I suppose with this dietary trend, the main things is that it does promote foods, magic foods, promote supplements, meal replacements. It does encourage those quick results and irregular meal patterns. So, and there wasn't any transition back into a normal lifestyle either. However, maybe if it was done in conjunction with a personal trainer, such as in that video clip, they might start to increase their exercise as the weight starts to come off. Cool. All right, so last but not least, our low carb diet. So what is this one all about? It restricts our carbohydrate price, so bread, cereals, potato, kumara, fruit, grains, alcohol, sugar, anything like that, anything that has a high amount of carbohydrate. And it aims to replace these carb foods with high protein foods. So usually our body uses carbohydrate for energy and uses our protein foods for repairing our muscles, for growth and development. So the protein foods that we're going to replace them with are eggs, fish, nuts, oil, and even encourages like butter and cream. So normally only about 45% of our diet is made up of carbohydrate foods. So once we remove this, it's similar to how I said before with the Optifast. When you have a low carbohydrate diet, your body goes into ketosis. So if we normally use carbohydrates as our energy, these get broken down into glucose, which is the smallest form of sugar that we can have that gets pushed around our body and taken into cells where it's used to do everything it needs to make us, be able to move, think, and function. So without a lot of glucose in our blood, we have to start using other stores. So we use fat stores for energy instead. And it produces these things called ketones by breaking down the proteins and the fats. So when there's a lot of ketones in our bodies and ketosis is underway, you tend to feel less hungry, and the body switches from being a carb burning machine to utilizing fat instead. And the fat stores become the primary source of energy. And through that method, the person is going to lose weight. So Atkins was probably one of the first types of low carb diets out there. There's other ones like the South Beach diet and also Dukan's diet. Atkins, funnily enough, the guy who created the Atkins diet actually passed away from a heart attack and heart disease. So even though he was skinny, he still wasn't looking after his heart health, probably from all the high amounts of saturated fat that he'd been consuming over a numerous number of years. A lot of these low carb diets are also promoted by a lot of celebrities. For example, Kim Kardashian claims to have lost like 22 kgs after having her baby on the Atkins diet. Oprah and Bill Clinton, for example, have done the South Beach diet. So by using these celebrities, they also create this, oh yeah, I could do that too, sort of attitude, and that it's always in a really short time frame as well, and that helps create volume too. So what do we need to think about with low carb? Awesome, it can be really effective for short-term weight loss. That example of Kim Kardashian, she lost like 22 kgs in a matter of weeks after baby. You get to eat lots of protein-rich foods. So if you love your kaimahi and you love your meat, then maybe this is something for you. The other benefits of protein is that it does help keep us feel full and feel satisfied. So as you probably are aware, when you are trying to lose weight or restrict the amount you're eating, that feeling of hunger and feeling that you're missing out is quite hard to suppress and quite hard to get over. So by eating more protein-rich foods, you help to feel full and sustained and happier for longer. You don't miss out as much, I suppose. It can have benefits for heart health short-term, because with a lot of weight loss, you're lighter, you're able to do things, and it can help reduce your blood pressure as well. Another great thing is that it doesn't actually promote any supplements. You do get to eat whole food, and you can figure out where those foods are from. Like, a piece of steak is from a cow, for example. Whereas some of the other diets we've just discussed or trends we've just discussed, you might be getting the protein, but you don't necessarily know where it came from. On the flip side, it can be a diet that's low in fiber, and vitamins A, B, D and E, and potassium and iron. And that's just because we're cutting out those grains that provide us with all of those nutrients in their carb content. Also, protein foods can be high in saturated fats. You know, if you're eating a lot of red meat, you're going hard on the butter and cream, then maybe long term that could have an effect on your heart health, like Mr. Atkins. Also, the effects of a high ketone level can be toxic if you're not careful. And there actually really hasn't been any evidence to say that it's sustainable long term. There's been lots of short-term studies, lots of research around that, but not necessarily the long-term results. So, yeah, we're still on the fence about that one. Also, with low fiber, having a low fiber diet, that can increase the risk of constipation and also fatigue and dizziness when you're cutting out foods and not necessarily replacing them correctly. And again, making sure that you're checking with your GP or your health care team, particularly for kidney patients. It's really not advised. It'll put too much strain on them. Yeah, so again, this one is one that produces quick results. It eliminates a whole food group. Lots of famous people do it, and it doesn't really promote a lifestyle change, which is something we're always wanting to encourage. Yeah. All right, so now that we've covered all of those different dietary trends, what have we learned? So we've learned that often, fad diets and trends overpromise. They promise you this financial freedom, this health, this amazing new lifestyle, and often that's far from the truth. They underdeliver. You might get that for 30 days, you might get that for a couple of months, but is it going to hold true for the rest of your life? What is going to be the maintenance plan, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and there's always going to be a new one. There's always going to be the latest and greatest, and some of them are just a revamp of an old one, and maybe they just have a new branding, or maybe they have a new famous celebrity that endorse it. But I guess one thing that is clear across all of the different dietary trends is that they really do have a lot of clever marketing and promotion behind them. So don't beat yourself up if you do fall into their under their magical spell, because that's what they're there to do. They're there to entice people in, and they're really good at doing that. Yeah, and also, healthy eating isn't sexy, and it's definitely not cool. It's probably the hardest thing to promote when you're up against all of these elaborate marketing campaigns. I mean, I can't promise you money. I can give you a few tips to maybe improve your lifestyle, but I'm not going to give you that financial freedom that they promote. And yeah, they really do give you great short-term results. They do provide that quick fix, but you do have to think about, are you in for the long haul or the short haul? I want to make it to the end of the game. I don't want to be subbed off in the first quarter. So yeah, just start thinking about some of those things, how you're going to sustain it if you do these, and what's your next step, I suppose. All right, so the last thing we wanted to talk about was how you discuss these trends as a kaimahi or as a whānau member. And I guess for me, the main thing to do is just to be really open. We don't want to put any negative connotations, I suppose, on these dietary trends, because for some people they can create some momentum and you can start to get runs on the board. And yeah, it's exciting if someone has decided that they want to make a change. So we don't want to put a big wall up and say, no, don't do that. But maybe start to elaborate more on what do they find empowering, what do they want to do, and where do they want to go, and what parts can we use from these trends, and what things can we learn to help them on their way. Yeah, because it can really be a great kickstart to their hauora journey. and it's your job to ensure that they're supported to do it for the long term. Yeah, we're also great believers here at Toi Tangata that people have their own solution, and often, you know, we get stuck in this trap of one size fits all, when that really is not the case at all. It doesn't really work, and we've seen it time and time again. So maybe it is that, you know, oh, I want to cut down on the amount of processed foods I have, and this project, or this diet here, this way of eating, that does that. It's like, okay, awesome, well, let's try that and see what happens. But maybe let's encourage you to get out and go for a walk now that you've lost a little bit of weight. Something like that. Make it work for them without obviously putting their health at risk. And if you do have any safety concerns, or you have any worries about yourselves or about your whānau or somebody doing this, get them to check in with their GP. If they can, you know, contact a dietitian and monitor them throughout that journey. Particularly, you know, our whānau that are on different medications or have a condition already, as many of us already do. Another thing to think about is, you know, how are you going to talk to them? What questions can you ask that help them explore this new pattern of eating? So, you know, how long do they intend to eat like that? What other things have they done in the past? Like, quite often, you know, we've all tried something. We've all tried a new way of eating or moving, or to try and improve ourselves. So what's worked and what hasn't? What can they learn and take forward with them? Is there anything that they find particularly challenging about eating healthy or making a lifestyle change? And what solutions can you come up with together to overcome that? Also looking with what's going to fit within their reality as well. You know, do they have a lot of pūtea to go and do these things, or do they have a really, really hectic lifestyle? So maybe, you know, your advice of cooking your food every day is not going to be realistic for them. Do they eat with their family? Do they eat at work? Lots of different elements that you need to sort of discuss with them to come to a way of going forward together. Cool. All right. So as part of this webinar, I suppose a lot of the background information and journey to this began with some student dietitians we had here last year. One of the things they did was look at a whole lot of different dietary trends and started to create this tool that you'll see in front of you. And what we really want to do is just highlight that there's the opportunity to be part of a focus group to pilot this tool. It sort of starts to look into more of the ways you can ask people about what they're doing and what's working and what they like about some of the ways of eating they've seen. So if you are interested in this resource, because we do want to be able to send it out to kaimahi and be something that's really useful for your work, then get in contact with either myself or Hariata here, and we can send you a copy out to have a tutu and give us any feedback that you might have. Other than that, if you have any other pātai regarding the diets we've covered, or any further ones you would like to know a little bit more about, please just holler at us and we'll be more than happy to help. Awesome. I hope you found that useful, and I'll be in touch with the next one. Go get that.
Awesome. Thank you, Jess. That was great. Thank you for staying on the line and hopefully enjoying this journey as well. So if you have any questions, keep them coming through, recorded or mine. You can contact me at Hariata. My email address is hariata@toitangata.co.nz. And stay tuned for more Toi Poto Wānanga coming out monthly. Kia ora.